In the wake of VidCon, I've come to realise a very important fact, which I think you all should realise as well, and that is, this is the beginning of the end of the skeptic community. You need only look at the way these skeptics who for years fought against these feminists and SJWs, and you need to only look at how they interacted with people like Francesca Ramsey, and how they interacted with people like Lacey Green. Now you may say to me, well, that's because they were kind. And they were. Undoubtedly, but I think what one should acknowledge is what links these people have. Take for example Francesca. She still works for MTV, a very large corporation, and the corporation will have no doubt noticed by this point that social justice doesn't really sell, and therefore they are looking for people to employ in order to fill this new hole and thus appeal more to the trendy sort of teenagers. So naturally they sent out Francesca to do this, and considering that Lacey Green used to work for them, I wouldn't be surprised if she was trying something similar, at least in the sense that she's trying to appeal to more viewers. Now, we can all admit this, but this isn't really the crux of this video. I'm here to attack more the philosophical position, because honestly, as much as the skeptics get viewed and people love them, they really did not have a very strong philosophical position, and this is for those people who really wish to destroy those social justice warriors and destroy this sort of progressive left narrative, and they never want it to come back again, because I shall be doing arguments against the core of the skeptic position. So, from my interactions with the skeptic community, I can tell that the majority of these people hold one of two extremely weak philosophical positions. The first one is that they don't have any sort of thought out philosophical position at all. I would put people like Armoured Skeptic and Shoe0nhead into this category. The second is holding this sort of secular humanist, atheist and materialist worldview. I would put people like the amazing atheist Thunderfoot and Sargon of Akkad into this position. It is quite obvious which of these is the more resilient. So for some reason, the first category of people believe that we can somehow defeat a very well-founded philosophical movement with no philosophy whatsoever. This is pretty much most of the kind of popcorn YouTubers who produce anti-SJW content formulaically for years. This is what they tend to believe. Now, what this position fundamentally misunderstands is the philosophical foundation of these social justice warriors and neo-Marxists. Now, there are two fundamentally very big schools that have been very influential on modern academia that are behind the current social justice warriors. The first of these are the post-structuralists, or postmodernists, as you'll have probably heard from Jordan Peterson. These are people like the philosopher Derrida, and they believe that we should deconstruct every single part of our society. And I think anyone with two brain cells can rub together can pretty much realise the sort of results of this. The second group are probably more renowned. These are the neo-Marxists, who believe that we can put oppressed and oppressor against each other, like Marx did with the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, but instead replacing that with ex-oppressed group and fucking white males. So therefore, because these group of people does not understand this, they just BTFO individual arguments, or at least they think they do. What they usually tend to do is, your first principles don't match up to mine, therefore you're stupid. But they try, and they fail because they misunderstand that there is a much stronger and much larger body of work supporting what these people do. Even if your average 13-year-old dyed-haired feminist or 21-year-old dyed-haired feminist doesn't know this, there are very, very strong arguments for these people to draw on, and about 100 to 150 years of academia too. Now, as you might expect, the second category is a lot more strong in its worldview, because obviously it has a worldview, which is a lot more than you can say for the prior category. However, there is a very, very big problem with this. And probably some of you will have realised this, because you've got to remember what this community was like before it developed into the skeptics we know today. And that is, that people like Steve Shives and Thunderfoot were working together. Now, what am I saying with this? I'm saying that these people have profoundly similar worldviews to each other. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't disagree on things, but I think what people should bear in mind when they are listening to these people is that these people have the same basal agreements about the world. And thus, because of this, it is natural that from the positions that they advocate, they merely just want to turn back the clock a few years. I remember watching Fritz Imperial, and he made a video saying how many of these skeptics merely just want to go back to the 90s. But the thing is as Fritz pointed out, these people aren't aware that they can't simply turn back time to the good old days. And even if they did manage to, it would mean that the ball would continue to roll down the slope back to where we started. Now I'm sure many people are asking, so, what is your solution, Diomedes? Well, we can do many things. The first thing we could do is to simply do what the more cerebral of the rational skeptics want us to, and that is to bring ourselves back to a 90s worldview with the same first principles that we got here with in the first place. Now, you might think that I agree with this. After all, I have a historical avatar and I've got an interesting background and all of that shit kind of going on, but surprisingly enough, I don't. My approach is far different, and I will elaborate upon this in other videos. My belief is that we should start looking at these first principles and we should start amending them. I don't believe in materialism, I believe in a dualism, as said by Descartes and many 18th and 17th century intellectuals. I don't reject the existence of a god, I believe in a deity, although I don't follow any of the mainstream religions, for instance. And finally, I do not believe in the concept of equality as set forth by any progressives. I believe that equal rights are a means to an end and should be used for people to naturally be better or worse than one another. A true meritocracy is what I want out of the world. So I'm sure a lot of people here are now asking me to justify what I've just said, and I will. But in order to keep this video short, I'm going to do it in other videos coming out over the next couple of weeks. So anyway, if you want to watch these and listen to my points of view on this, as I'm here to learn and I'm here to express philosophical positions, please subscribe and we can defeat the progressive left together. If you want to listen to my tweets, you can follow me on Twitter. I'll link myself in the description. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later, guys. Vale.